big problem we're getting into is that we have learned how to control everything but our own ability to reproduce ourselves. And for so many of the wild animals, there just isn't room out there. But it's people's attitudes and ideas toward animals. We're the only species that keeps other animals just for the enjoyment of keeping them as pets. We see people come into the petting yard area here with 18-month-old babies, and those babies will sit there and start trying to feed animals. Those babies have never been around animals, and what causes a human to want to do that toward another species? It's really odd. But we look upon animals, and it's like we want to make a bond with nearly anything, and that's why people want to come to zoos to see that.
But the problem is, you take species and they grow up in captivity. They can't go back out into the wild, and so for that reason it's bad. But you have to look at the good side. I mean, some people consider a zoo a sad place, and there's a certain degree of that, of course. But if you think about the fact that there's a lot of species that are getting cared for and that have lives that are around because of captivity.
Well, I personally think that zoos are necessary because it's a great opportunity to educate people about animals. You as a zookeeper, you're able to work with endangered species that would be out in the wild and possibly in the near future be extinct, but because you can bring them in to the zoo in captivity and where they are more protected, where you can take care of them and pamper them and hopefully get a good reproduction program going, then you can perpetuate the species.
At some point, a lot of the animals we have on Earth today, 100 to 200, 300 years down the road, they're not going to be alive in the wild anymore. The only place they're going to be is in zoos. Until humans learn to control their own population and stop taking up all the land and taking up all the resources, we're going to continue to take that away from the animals. I support zoos. We can walk out, and even though it is in concrete and steel, we can look out and say, and there's a live elephant.
They don't know any better. If they're raised in captivity, then they don't know what it's like to be out in the wild, and so they don't miss it.
Zoos are a very controversial issue amongst the general public these days. Many see it that having animals locked up in captivity is nothing but cruelty to animals, and that it is unnecessary, and that they lead a life of misery. Many of the zoos around the country have actually upgraded their facilities these days, have made great strides in improvement of exhibits, and now we're to a point that we try to simulate the natural habitat more closely in their exhibit areas. For instance, like our tiger and sun bear exhibits, we have, it's all like grassed area, and we have some little rocky, like little rocky hill type climbs and stuff with some trees. And we have a waterfall with pool and stream running through it, and so it makes it more natural, and they feel like they're more at home. It's just it's a good tool to try to help ensure that for some particular species of wildlife will still be around for a few more years. It gives people a chance to see some of these animals that they would never see otherwise. So it's a very good educational tool.
Adam Campetti, NT Scene.